All right. Good evening, everyone. So, right. So, can you see the screen I've shared?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right. So, are there any questions or concerns pertaining to anything we've done so far? Right. So, we proved Hall's theorem, which gives us a necessary and sufficient condition for when a bipartite graph has a matching that saturates one color class. And then, of course, from there, you can easily get necessary and sufficient conditions for a bipartite graph to have a perfect matching. It's basically the same, except that now you need a number of vertices in X to be equal to the number of vertices in Y, which is obvious. Right? Okay, and then we looked at an algorithmic viewpoint where you start from an unmatched black vertex. I should have colored the vertices as I realized later. But anyways, I think I still mentioned which vertices are in X and which ones are in Y. Right? So you keep building this M alternating tree, and when you cannot build it any further, your even level vertices will exactly correspond to the set S that we constructed in the proof. Okay, it will be all the vertices. Um, yeah, so you've basically found all the vertices that are reachable from you using M alternating paths. Okay, so that's just an algorithmic way of looking at it.
So for
Yeah.
this, we would have to start with the maximum matching, right?
Yeah, so in the
Like,
proof, we took a maximum matching, right?
yeah. So in order to find such a set which is deficient,
Uh-huh.
we would have to start with the matching.
Right. So there are, okay, so that's right. But you can also convert this into an algorithm for finding a maximum matching. So what you do is you start with any matching, okay? You can start with a maximal matching if you like. And then you build this kind of alternating tree. When you build this tree, if your matching is not maximum, you will end up finding an augmenting path.
Oh, okay.
You have to be careful. So you have to build such a tree from every unsaturated vertex. So you start from U, then you look at another unsaturated black vertex. If
Mm-hmm.
you build such trees from every unsaturated black vertex, then eventually you will find an augmenting path. So then you get a bigger matching, and then you repeat the process. And when you don't find a bigger matching, basically you will get the deficient set.
Okay.
Okay. We will come back to that when we discuss vertex covers today. Okay. So you can convert this into an algorithm for finding a maximum matching in unweighted bipartite graphs. Okay. Are there any other questions or concerns? All right. So I want to discuss one quick application of Hall's theorem. Um, all right. So let's think about regular graphs, right? So when I say regular today, I mean k regular for some k at least one, right? I'm not looking at an empty graph without any edges, which is also regular. Okay. So if you think about all the regular graphs that we have been looking at, right? Like this graph, which I keep drawing, K33, Peterson. This, by the way, is a complement of a six cycle. So you can use that notation. Okay. If you think about all these regular graphs that we have been looking at in this course, they all have perfect matchings. Okay. So is that a coincidence? Does every regular graph have a perfect matching? So any thoughts? Does anyone know of a regular graph that does not have a perfect matching? What about bipartite graphs? If I give you a regular bipartite graph that is not empty, will it have a perfect matching? Mhm. So we can actually prove that for bipartite graphs, this is actually true. This is corollary 16.6, and I'm actually going to leave it to you as an exercise. Every regular bipartite graph has a perfect matching. T. Okay. However, this is not true for non-bipartite graphs. Triangle does not have a perfect matching. That's right. Sure. That is correct. So, odd cycles, clearly the answer is no. Odd cycles don't have perfect matchings, right? So you might say, well, that's just too regular. So it turns out that even for three regular, okay, and the problem with odd cycles is that it has an odd number of vertices, right? So let us say, what about non-empty regular graphs with even number of vertices? Notice that if you have a bipartite graph which is regular and non-empty, then it definitely has an even number of vertices, right? Because in fact, you can easily prove that in a bipartite graph, if it is regular, then the number of black vertices has to be equal to the number of white vertices. In particular, the number of vertices has to be an even number. Okay. But even if you say that the number of vertices is even, in general this is not true, and you can construct a three regular graph, for example, that does not have a perfect matching. Does someone have an explanation for why this graph does not have a perfect matching? I want a simple explanation, not something using fancy theorems.
So I think we can first take the middle vertex.
Okay, yeah,
So if we delete the middle vertex, we get three components which are like
right.
isomorphic.
Okay,
I think we can prove that each of these components don't have a perfect matching.
okay, let's prove that. Each component has how many vertices?
Five vertices. So
Five.
it's odd. Yeah.
Right, right. So
We
each
can't have a
component
perfect
cannot
matching.
have a perfect matching. Right. So what he's saying, what Shrikant is saying is that you look at the graph, this is G, you look at the graph G minus V. G minus V has three components, 1, 2, and 3. Each of these has an odd number of vertices. So you cannot match an odd number of vertices with each other, right? You can't have a perfect matching in a graph with odd number of vertices. So which means each of them has to match at least one vertex into the vertex V, because that is the only place where they are connected. So which means all these three vertices that I have marked with black, they have to match into the vertex V, but that would not be a matching because we would have three edges of the matching incident at it. Okay?
Yeah.
So this graph does not have any perfect matching, although the number of vertices is even, it is 16. Right? So
Yeah.
in general, even if you have a regular graph with an even number of vertices, it may not have a perfect matching. But what is true is that for bipartite graphs that are regular and non-empty, there is always a perfect matching. Okay? So, this is a do-it-yourself problem, right? And you want to use Hall's theorem, right? So all you need to show is that for every subset of X, the neighborhood has at least as many vertices as the set itself. Right? So this is what you want to show. Okay, and it's not difficult. You just use the fact that your graph is k regular for some k, and then it's simply a matter of counting the number of edges. Okay, so I won't say beyond that. Okay, but there is another cool consequence of this. Supposing I give you a k regular, let's say I take a 3 regular. Actually, let me take a 4 regular to make it more interesting. Supposing I take a 4 regular bipartite graph. Okay, let's say G is some 4 regular bipartite graph. Okay, so I claim that we can now say something stronger. Does anybody see that? I want to use this corollary to say something stronger. This graph has a perfect matching. I take one perfect matching, and now I want to make some stronger observation about this graph. It's about edge colorings. How many colors are required to get a proper edge coloring of this graph? I want to use the corollary that we did not prove, that you will be proving. Can you say that this graph has a 4 edge coloring? Yeah, I think there is some reply on the chat which I have to look at. Right, exactly. So Krishnan, can you explain your point?
So I think he has some issue with his mic.
Oh, okay. So that's right. So what you can do is you can get 4 perfect matchings, right? You take one perfect matching, which you know exists by the corollary. Now you remove these edges. What is your new graph? It won't be 4 regular, but you removed a perfect matching, so it will be 3 regular because every vertex loses 1 degree when you remove a perfect matching. So now you have a 3 regular bipartite graph, and now you can again get a perfect matching using the same corollary, right? And you keep doing this, basically you will find 4 perfect matchings, and that is a 4 edge coloring, right? So another consequence is that a k regular bipartite graph has k disjoint perfect matchings, which implies that it is k edge colorable. Okay. Are there any questions or concerns regarding these observations? All right. So those are simple applications of Hall's theorem to edge colorings, right? So or let me just say application because it's also about perfect matchings. All right. Good. So we'll come back to edge colorings in some time, because edge colorings are nothing but really disjoint matchings. Right? But before that, I want to switch to another discussion. So let's consider the following decision problem. Given a bipartite graph gxy, decide whether G has a matching that saturates X. Okay. So clearly this decision problem is in NP, right? Because I can just show you a matching that saturates X, right? Is it in co-NP?
Yes, I can just give a subset of X
Right,
such
right?
that
Because you can just give a deficient set, right? Okay, so this is due to Hall's theorem. Okay, so it's easy to convince someone that a bipartite graph has a matching that saturates X or whether it does not, right? Those things are easily convinced. Okay, now let's ask a related question. How do you convince someone that a particular matching is maximum? So let's suppose that there is no matching saturating X. Okay, let's say X is less than equal to Y, which means a maximum matching will have size less than X. But then how do you convince someone that a particular matching is actually maximum? So this is not immediately clear, right? So given a bipartite graph gxy and a matching M, decide whether N is a maximum matching. Right? So of course, if you want to convince someone that it is not a maximum matching, then you know that there will be an M augmenting path. Right? We don't know how we'll find that. You can find it using alternating trees concept that we discussed. Right? Um, but if it is actually a maximum matching, then it just means that there is no M augmenting path. So how do you convince someone that the graph does not have an M augmenting path? Right? That's not so immediate. What would be really nice is if we could get some upper bound, and if that upper bound would match the size of the maximum matching. So we can ask the following question. Are there some natural, whatever that means, upper bounds on the size of a maximum matching? Right? And just to remind you, we are calling this alpha prime G, right? So can we get some upper bounds on the matching number of a graph? All right, so as you can probably tell from the topic I gave to this discussion, there is a concept that you probably have seen in previous courses called vertex covers. Okay. So, what is a vertex cover? A subset S of the vertex set of a graph is a vertex cover if it covers all the edges, which is kind of weird. If it covers all edges. What do I mean by covers all edges? Um,
Uh, like every edge is incident in one of the vertex in the
exactly.
vertex curve.
For each edge UV, at least one of U and V belongs to S. Okay? So at least one of the two ends of that edge is in this set. So let's think about it. Supposing I tell you that this is a vertex cover. Let's say S is a vertex cover. What can you say about the complement? If S is a vertex cover, what
I think
is
it should be
the
an
complement?
independent set.
Exactly. It's a stable set, right? Or an independent set, right? Okay. So in fact, because we know that computing the stability number of a graph is NP hard, computing the vertex cover number or the smallest size of a vertex cover is also NP hard. Notice that in the case of vertex cover, what is interesting is to get a small vertex cover, right? Because of course all the vertices they form a vertex cover. So you want to get a minimum vertex cover, but then the complement will be a maximum stable set. And that is hard to compute. So minimum vertex cover is also hard to compute. Okay. So let's just put an aside here. S is a vertex cover if and only if S bar is a stable set. This is an easy do it yourself exercise, right? In case you don't see it right now. And a consequence of this is that S is a minimum vertex cover if and only if S bar is a maximum stable set. Right? And a consequence of this is that computing a minimum vertex cover is NP hard. So let me put some notation. So we will use beta of G as the covering number of graph G. Okay. And it is defined as the size of, let me just say cardinality to be clearer. Cardinality of a minimum vertex cover. Okay. And it follows from this discussion that computing beta of G is NP hard in general. Okay. Okay, so why are we discussing the vertex cover? Well, we wanted to get some upper bound on the size of a maximum matching. Okay. So let's think about this situation. Let's suppose I have a graph G and a matching M. M is some matching. Okay, let's make a drawing. Supposing I put the matching edges. Let's say I have 5 matching edges. Okay, and then I have a bunch of other vertices which are exposed with respect to this matching. And now let's suppose we take a vertex cover of this graph. Is there a relationship between the size of M and the size of S?
I think the size of the matching should uh, sorry, size of the vertex cover should be at least the size of the matching.
Right.
So I size up the
Yeah.
minimum
So you're
vertex
saying
cover
that this
should
should be a less than equal to. Why?
yeah.
So can anybody explain why this is true?
I think like for each edge for each edge in the matching there should be a vertex in the minimum vertex cover.
Exactly.
We might also have more vertices.
Exactly. Right?
I,
If you look at
I-
any edge in the matching EI, if its ends are UI and VI, one of those two vertices has to be in your vertex cover. Right? For each EI equal to UI VI, one of UI and VI belongs to the vertex cover. But because you are looking at 10 vertices here, right? Because I have 5 edges in the matching, you will get at least 5 vertices in the vertex cover, one from each edge, at least one. Right? So this implies that the size of the vertex cover is at least as much as the size of the matching itself. Okay? All right. Okay, so let's put down a proposition. For all graphs, yeah, let me just say the way I wrote it above. If G is a graph, M is a matching, and S is a vertex cover, then we have this inequality. And what about the following situation? What if these two are equal? What if you find a matching and a vertex cover whose cardinalities happen to coincide exactly? In that case, what can you say about the matching and the vertex cover?
the vertex cover should be minimal and the matching should be maximum.
Right? That's clear. Then M is a maximum matching and S is a minimum vertex cover, right? If not, then you will get a contradiction to the previous inequality, right? So we have just proved this. Are there any questions or concerns? So if you want to convince someone that a given matching is maximum, it would be really nice if you could find a vertex cover of the same size, right? Of course, you don't expect this to be true because I've told you that maximum matching is computable in polynomial time and a minimum vertex cover is NP hard. So in general, you don't expect this to happen, right? So in general, it won't be the case that you will find a matching and a vertex cover for which this holds with equality. Can someone give me a small example where this is not true? So I want an example where the maximum matching is actually less than the size of a minimum vertex cover.
Odd cycle.
Odd cycle, right? Okay. So let's take an odd cycle. Let's take the smallest odd cycle. Why not? So the cardinality of a maximum matching here is simply 1, right? So alpha prime is 1. And a vertex cover, well, if you pick any one vertex, you will miss the opposite edge. It is not covered, right? So you must pick two vertices, and that is the best you can do. Okay. So in general, for non-bipartite graphs, you will have you may not have a tight equality. Okay. But what is really cool is that for bipartite graphs, these two quantities are equal. Okay. So let me put down that theorem. We'll prove it. Um, so this is theorem 8.32. It appears in chapter 8 in Bondimurthy because they give a proof using linear programming, which is not what we are covering. Right? So this is Koenig-Egervary theorem. And it says that for a bipartite graph, these two quantities are exactly equal. Okay. Um, okay. So in general, in general, you won't have this equation, but for bipartite graphs, this is actually true. Okay, and this is great news because now we can go to our original decision problem. Now, if you want to decide whether a given matching is maximum, all right, then you can, or if it is not maximum, right? Sorry. Right. If you want to convince someone that a given matching is maximum, by the Koenig-Egervary theorem, you know that there is a vertex cover of the same size. So that is your certificate to convince someone that a given matching is actually maximum. Right? And if it is not maximum, well, you just show them a bigger matching. So this problem is now in NP intersection co-NP. Well, it is also in P because you can get polynomial time algorithm using the M alternating tree idea. Okay. Good. So let's try to prove the Koenig-Egervary theorem. And again, the proof is very similar to Hall's theorem. So I'll leave bits and pieces of it as do-it-yourself exercise. Okay. Are there any questions or concerns at this point before we begin the proof? So let's take a bipartite graph, GXY. And let's consider a maximum matching in the graph G. Our goal is to show existence of a vertex cover S such that the cardinality of the matching is equal to the cardinality of the vertex cover. All right. We're going to do something very similar to Hall's theorem proof. Right, so what did we do in the proof of Hall's theorem? We took one unsaturated vertex
We considered all the vertices in the bipartite graph, which is reachable from the vertex through some alternating
Exactly.
path.
Exactly. Right? So if we have any unsaturated vertex, we took such a, right. So of course, in that case, we had unsaturated vertices. Right? So we were able to do that. What's the problem here? Here the maximum matching could actually be a perfect matching. Let's deal with that. What if the maximum matching is a perfect matching? Then you won't have any unsaturated vertices, right? If the M is a perfect matching,
But then in here we can take one vertex from each, one vertex which is incident on each edge in the perfect matching, and we'll get a.
right, right. So the point is, in a bipartite graph, if you take X or Y, that is a vertex cover, right? Observe that in a bipartite graph, in GXY bipartite, X and Y are both vertex covers. Right? So if M is a perfect matching, well, how does that happen? That happens if X is exactly equal to Y, right? And that is exactly equal to the size of the perfect matching. If M is a perfect matching, then the cardinality of X is equal to cardinality of Y is equal to the cardinality of the matching. You have 4 vertices, then you will have exactly 4 edges in the perfect matching. And each of X and Y are minimum vertex covers. Okay, and we are done because their size is equal to the size of the matching, the size of the perfect matching. Okay? So, if M is a perfect matching, then done by this discussion. Now suppose that M is not a perfect matching. Okay. Well, this implies that there are some exposed vertices. There exist M exposed vertices. Right? Could be one vertex, could be many vertices, I don't know. They could be in X or Y or both of them. So let me assume without loss of generality that there are M exposed vertices in the set X. Otherwise, you just relabel X and Y. Right? So adjust notation such that there exist M exposed vertices in the set X. Okay, and as before, X will be our black vertices and Y will be our white vertices. Okay. So in Hall's theorem, we started from a particular M exposed vertex U, and from that we were able to construct a deficient set, right? But here we are trying to do something more than that. We are not only trying to construct a deficient set, we are trying to construct a vertex cover whose size is the same as the matching. So that's a bit stronger. Okay. In fact, it's related to deficient sets. We'll talk about that later during the proof. Okay. So it turns out that we are not just going to work with one M exposed vertex. We are going to take all the M exposed vertices that are black in color. So they are in the set X. Okay. Let U, capital U, denote the set of all M exposed vertices in X. Okay. So let me make a drawing here. So let's say this is the set U. Okay. And it has, let's say it has 3 black vertices. Why not? For the sake of example. Okay. So now the rest of the proof is very similar to Hall's theorem. We are going to consider all the vertices Z that can be reached from some vertex in U using M alternating paths. Yeah, Ganesh?
Nothing, sir.
Oh, okay, okay. So let's define, let Z be the set of all vertices that are reachable from some vertex in U using an M alternating path. Okay. So clearly, U is a subset of Z, right? Because every vertex is reachable from itself. A single vertex is an M alternating path by definition. Okay. But there could be other vertices that are also reachable from U. Some of them will be in X, some of them will be in Y. So we will break them into two sets as we did before. Okay. So let's suppose these are the vertices. So this part is U, and this whole box that I've drawn is Z intersection X. Okay. And there'll be some vertices on the other side. Let me actually not, yeah, sure, whatever. Let me not put numbers on the other side for the sake of generality. So this is Z intersection Y. And then you will have the remaining vertices. You will have Z bar intersection Y and Z bar intersection X. Okay. So now really the proof is very similar to what we have already done. Okay. I'm going to write down some claims and I'm going to leave it to you to prove it as an exercise. You basically follow the same thought process that we did for the proof of Hall's theorem. Okay. So what will happen? So here are some claims, and I'll put them as do it yourself. Okay. Maybe I'll ask all of you, what do you think we are going to prove? So what does the matching, let me ask you the following question. What does the matching look like? Anybody? Is the matching going to be restricted in some sense in this drawing? Supposing the matching, yeah, go ahead.
I guess it is a perfect matching for the bipartite graph minus U.
For the bipartite graph minus U. Hmm. But if it is a perfect matching for the bipartite graph minus U, then it means that all the white vertices are saturated. Is that right? So you're kind of on the right track, but maybe not entirely. Right? I mean, we could potentially have white vertices that are also unsaturated. I just did not consider them. I looked at the black vertices that are unsaturated, but nothing is stopping us from having white vertices that are also unsaturated. So where do you think the red edges are going to be? Let me ask that question. Where are the red edges going to be in this drawing? What will they join? Can they join the top bottom left to the top right or the top left to the bottom right? Is that possible?
I think it shouldn't be possible for an edge in the matching to be between Z intersection X and Z intersection Y.
Right. In fact, what you can prove is that all the matching edges will be restricted to the left side or to the right side. So there will be some edges on the left side, which will be matching edges. I'm looking at the matching edges right now. And the remaining matching edges will be on the right side. Okay? So they will be joining Z intersection Y with Z intersection X. Okay? So in fact, a bunch of things we can prove. One, all vertices in Z except for the unsaturated vertices by definition are M saturated. In fact, the perfect matching M, if you just restrict it to Z minus U, is a perfect matching of the graph induced by Z minus U. Okay. Maybe let me put it slightly differently to make it clearer. If you look at the perfect matching edges, yeah, in the you take the perfect matching and you delete the vertices of Z bar. That is one way to think about it. You forget all the vertices in Z bar, right? So then you will get a perfect matching of the left graph, except for the U vertices, which are unsaturated by definition. Okay. All right. Another thing you can prove is the following. You see all the vertices in X, which are on the right side, they have to be matched because U is the set of all unsaturated vertices in X, right? So all of these vertices are actually going to be matched. Where can they be matched? They have to be matched in vertices in this side, right? What's the problem? There might be unsaturated vertices in Z bar intersection Y. Nothing is stopping us from having that. Okay, so in general, you could have a bigger set here, and you could have more unsaturated vertices, which are white in color here. All right. So the second point you can prove is that all vertices of Z bar intersection X are matched. Sorry, maybe let me say each vertex. Each vertex is matched to some vertex in Z bar intersection Y. But Z bar intersection Y may have unsaturated vertices or exposed vertices. Okay. And finally, can somebody tell me what kinds of edges do not exist in the graph? There are some kinds of edges that cannot exist in this graph.
From U to the unsaturated vertices in Z bar intersection Y.
Right. But just from U, or you want to say something more general?
From Z intersection X to Z
yeah.
bar intersection Y, there isn't any edge. Yeah.
From Z intersection X to Z bar intersection Y.
And also, I guess from Z intersection Y to Z bar intersection X.
Then you are saying that the graph is disconnected.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Sorry.
Right? So the graph could very well be connected, right? We don't want that kind of a contradiction, right? So there is no problem in having an edge going from z intersection y to z bar intersection x. You won't get a contradiction. What will give you a contradiction is an edge going from the bottom left to the top right. So the last claim is there do not exist edges with one end in z intersection x and other end in z bar intersection y. So in other words, all the edges of the graph, they are either on the left side or they are on the right side, or they will go like this. Okay? But you won't have any edges going from the bottom left to the top right. Okay? If you have such an edge, then you will get a contradiction to the definition of Z. That
You get an
vertex,
alternating path.
exactly. You will get an alternating path to the vertex in Z bar intersection Y, where such an edge ends. Okay? So all of these claims, the proofs are very similar to Hall's theorem arguments. Okay, I'm not going to write that down. You should figure them out or write them down explicitly yourself. Okay, but now what does it mean? Now does anybody see a vertex cover here? Which has exactly 8 edges, 8 vertices. Sorry, go ahead.
Z intersection y plus z bar intersection x.
Exactly. So now you look at these vertices that I am circling in blue. These vertices, they form a vertex cover of the same size as the size of the matching, right? Because from every matching edge, we are picking exactly one vertex. The whole game is to figure out which white vertices to pick and which black vertices to pick, right? Because otherwise you may not get a vertex cover of that size. Okay? In the perfect matching case, you could have just picked all the white vertices or all the black vertices and you were done. But in the general case, you have to be careful. Okay? So now the claim is, well, it basically follows from the last part here. This implies that the other two sets, Z intersection Y union Z bar intersection X, is a vertex cover that picks exactly one end from each edge in the matching. Right? Yeah, Z intersection Y, Z bar intersection X, no mistakes. And this implies that the cardinality of this vertex cover is exactly the cardinality of the matching. Okay? So we have found a vertex cover of the same size as the matching, and therefore we have proved Koenig-Egervary theorem. Right? There are some claims, but those are really the same as Hall's theorem. So please do that yourself. And that's it. That's it for today. If there are any questions or concerns, please ask.
So I think from this we can say that computing
Yeah, computing the
maximum
data.
matchings is NP hard.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Computing?
Maximum computing the maximum matching number is NP hard.
Is NP hard?
I think
Why?
because you said that like computing vertex cover,
Right.
minimum vertex cover.
In general graphs. In general graphs, computing the
Oh,
minimum
okay,
vertex
okay.
cover is NP hard, but not in bipartite graphs.
Okay.
So you can actually compute a minimum vertex cover in bipartite graphs in polytime, because when any algorithm that computes a maximum matching, it will also generally give you a minimum vertex cover as a certificate to convince you that this is a
Yeah, yeah,
maximum
okay.
matching. Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when I said in general, I didn't specify, but yeah,
Okay.
it's actually only for non-bipartite graphs. Otherwise, it is easy. Right? So by this argument, actually computing stable sets in bipartite graphs is also easy. Computing a maximum stable set in a bipartite graph is easy. You just compute a minimum vertex cover and take the complement. Okay? So these problems are NP hard mostly for non-bipartite graphs.
Okay.
So actually, maybe I'll write that down. So fact is both maximum matching and minimum vertex cover, the quantities and the corresponding sets, as well as corresponding sets. By sets, I mean one such set may be computed in polynomial time for bipartite graphs. Right? And basically it's also certificates. So you will get a maximum matching and a minimum vertex cover, and that will convince you that the answer is correct.
Okay. So yeah, I wanted to ask another thing, sir. Like,
Yeah.
suppose if we have a graph and if you want to say that the graph has k perfect matchings.
Hmm.
Okay, not perfect matchings exactly, but okay. Can we say that it has to have some kind of a k regular bipartite graph structure inside it?
Oh, I see. So you're saying that if a graph has k perfect matchings, then does it have to be k regular or something? Is that what you're asking?
Not exactly, but does it do we have any theorem saying that it has some k regular bipartite graph minor or something like that?
Ah, I see. I see. Um, So I can tell you, so basically what is known is for regular graphs, you have some stronger results. I don't know the results off the top of my head. You can take a look at Bondimurthy and also Loas Plummer matching theory textbook. So they they mention stronger results for regular graphs with respect to number of perfect matchings. And
Okay.
yeah, but if you have lots of perfect matchings, it doesn't have directly any implications on the regularity of the graph. I mean, the graph could be basically
Okay.
you can take a complete graph and remove one edge. Right? You can take a KNN minus one edge,
Yeah.
right? And this will have lots of perfect matchings.
Okay.
So yeah, so that direction I don't know much. I don't know if you can say much concretely. Um, but for regular graphs, you can actually make stronger claims about the number of perfect matchings and stuff like that if you add additional conditions.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Okay, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Ganesh.